Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Allison McKay, and I'm an attorney with Disability Rights Ohio, and I will be moderating our session. In this Facebook Live video, we will be providing an overview of how Disability Rights Ohio advocates for children with disabilities, beginning with school through post-secondary education and employment, what we consider to be our priorities, and where to find self-advocacy resources on our website. This is the first of what will hopefully be a series of Facebook Live videos. So if you have other ideas for topics that you would like for us to consider, please let us know. If you would like to follow along with our video, we will post a copy of our PowerPoint presentation in the comments section on Facebook, and captioning of this video will also be available within the next business day. Please know that Disability Rights Ohio is providing this video as an informational resource, and we are not providing legal advice. If you seek help regarding a specific situation, please feel free to contact our intake department. And please feel free to comment and ask questions throughout this video. We will do our best to respond. Again, please do not disclose confidential information such as your child's name in the comment box. And again, if you seek help or have questions that are specific to your situation, please feel free to contact our intake department. Let me introduce you to our presenters for today. Sitting next to me is Kristen Hildebrandt. She is a senior attorney with Disability Rights Ohio and has been working within our office for over 30 years, and she heads up our special education work. Also presenting is Melissa Day, who is an advocate who focuses on transition issues and accessing services through the vocational rehabilitation system. Before we get to the substance of our presentation, let me tell you a little bit about who we are as an organization. Disability Rights Ohio is a nonprofit corporation. We are designated as Ohio's protection and advocacy system for people with disabilities and our state's client assistance program. Our mission is to advocate for the human, civil, and legal rights of people with disabilities in Ohio. We are located at 200 Civic Center Drive, Suite 300 in Columbus, Ohio, 43215. Our phone number is 1-800-282-9181, and you can press option 2 in order to reach our intake department. Our materials are available on our website at www.disabilityrightsohio.org. Our staff includes intake specialists who will receive calls and provide information and referral services. We have both attorneys and advocates on our staff who provide advocacy services to people with disabilities. And we also have a policy and communications team who educate Ohioans and policymakers about our agency and disability rights. Our services are client directed. So if a person with a disability needs help from Disability Rights Ohio, anyone can contact our office. It could be the person or someone on their behalf, like a family member. And our client would be the person with the disability, and we take direction from them. We keep information confidential, and we can work on individual cases specific to a person or do larger systemic work to try and create change on behalf of a larger group of people with disabilities within the state. Our eligibility for services is fairly simple. So you have to be a person with a disability. We don't have any income requirements, and our clients aren't charged for the services that we provide. In terms of our services, we provide an array of different levels of assistance. We provide information and referral services, self-advocacy assistance, limited representation. That could be by providing legal advice. It could be helping to negotiate or mediate a situation. And then we can also provide legal advocacy services that include help with administrative actions or court litigation. And the level of services that we provide depends on the case. So now I will hand it over to Kristen Hildebrandt to provide more information about our special education team and the services that we provide.
Thank you, Allison. Disability Rights Ohio's special education team provides advocacy services for children with disabilities ages birth through the age of 21. We do that by advocating primarily in two major areas. One is for children birth through age 3, advocacy services in Ohio's early intervention program. That program is part of the special education, federal special education law, and it provides what is called an individualized family service plan, which provides services to both the child with a disability and the family to ensure that that child has the best developmental outcome possible. That program is administered by the Ohio Department of Developmental Disabilities. And in that program, we assist families in understanding their rights, knowing whether or not the plan that they receive is appropriate for their family and their child, and knowing what their remedies are available through that program and how to use those remedies to resolve their disputes. We also advocate for families who have children aged 3 through the age of 21, primarily under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, the federal law that provides a free, appropriate public education to eligible students. In that area, we do the bulk of our work, and we represent families in a variety of different ways. We provide technical assistance to families, and we provide full representation depending on the issue in their case, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. I also wanted to mention that we also assist families under a couple of other federal laws. Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act of 1973 is a law that provides services to students with disabilities, and something called a Section 504 plan. So if a child's not eligible for an IEP, we would still provide assistance to them if they're eligible under that law. And also we do some work under the Americans with Disabilities Act, or the ADA. And in the special education team, those cases are typically cases where a student is being denied access to a major part of the school program. Examples of cases that fall into that category would be a school district that doesn't allow a student to go on a class trip or a field trip because of a disability, or a student might have a service animal and the school doesn't want to allow that child to bring the service animal to school. So those are examples of the kind of work we do in that area. For the bulk of the work that we do, we set priorities for the level of representation we will provide. That's something that the entire agency does in order to address issues that are important to the community and also to wisely use our resources. In the special education team, the current priorities are cases involving the school to prison pipeline, which really stems from a school district's inability to appropriately address a child's behaviors in the school setting. Often that leads to the inappropriate use of techniques like restraint and seclusion, which is also a priority in our office, or the misapplication of the disciplinary process in special education. That all leads to kids being suspended or expelled and having contact with the juvenile justice system. Then the other priority that we have currently is a transition priority that focuses on students who are in high school, who are getting ready to leave high school, and look at their options going forward. In that area, we focus on making sure that students with disabilities have options available to them to either further their education or to get competitive employment in the community and to stay out of segregated employment options that might be offered to them. Also within our special education team, we have a special program. It's called the Special Education Fellow. This is a program that is grant funded that we've had for 3 years and are just getting ready to start our 4th year. That program focuses on ensuring that disputes families have with school districts are resolved at the lowest possible level. And we focus on resolving disputes through the IEP team process. That program is not guided by the priorities I told you about, so any issue can be addressed through that program. So if you have an issue about not getting enough OT or PT for your child, or you're trying to get your child identified as eligible for special education, or you might want extended school year or some other issue, our fellow can help you. The only way that program is limited is geographically. So it is focused on the Central Ohio region. So it covers Franklin County and the counties that touch Franklin. So those would be Delaware, Fairfield, Licking, Madison, Pickaway, and Union. All right, so we also, in our special education team, provide a variety of levels of services to families. We have somebody who is dedicated to providing information and resources to families in all of the cases that come in that aren't priority cases. So this is in addition to the fellow program I told you about. So that person will talk to families and give them advice about how they can use self-advocacy materials and resources to try to resolve the dispute for themselves. In cases that are in the priority area, we provide that level of assistance, but we also do more depending on the resources that are available. So we will frequently call the school district to try to resolve the issue. We will participate in mediation and negotiation sessions with the school district. We will assist families in filing complaints against a school district with the Ohio Department of Education so that the department would investigate the issue and try to resolve it. And then we also will represent parents in the hearing process available under the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. It's called an impartial due process hearing. And depending on the results of that, would represent a parent in federal court if we took it that far. So we have a broad range of assistance available to families in those priority cases. We also do systemic work in the special education team and actually in every team here at Disability Rights Ohio. Currently, our systemic work is focusing on a settlement of a class action lawsuit that our office brought regarding the quality of services available to students with disabilities in Ohio. So that work is going to look at ways of improving the special education system in Ohio for students with disabilities. It is targeted specifically to larger urban school districts, and it focuses on a couple of priority issues, including least restrictive environment, and that means students with disabilities educated with their typical peers, transition, school climate issues, like the school to prison pipeline and positive behavioral interventions and supports, and literacy. So we're doing that kind of systemic work, and we're also working systemically on the priority issues that we have. So for example, in the area of restraint and seclusion, we're working very hard with the Department of Education to try to improve the rule that we have in our state to include a complaint mechanism for parents when they feel that school districts aren't complying with the rule. And then, in addition, we also have good self-advocacy resources that are available to families in the area of special education. They're available on our website. We have a series of FAQs, or frequently asked question documents, that cover topics that you frequently will encounter in special education. Things like, how do you get your child evaluated for an IEP? How do you get extended school year? And what do you do if your school district is not following your IEP? We also have a series of sample letters that you can use if you need to write a letter to your school district to ask for something. You can pattern it off of one of our samples if you're not sure what to write. And we have a variety of those, including how do you request an evaluation of your child, how can you review your child's records, and how do you ask for an IEP meeting. Those are just some examples of what we have. Then we also have a document called Negotiation Skills for Parents. How do you get the special education your child needs? That document focuses on assisting you in navigating the special education system. So it starts very early on teaching you how to be an effective communicator. How do you know who you should communicate with, and how you should communicate, all the way through what remedies are available to you in the special education process. So I encourage you to get on our website and look at that, all of the resources that are available. They're available in 4 languages: English, Spanish, Somali, and American Sign Language. Now I'm going to turn it over to Melissa Day, who is an advocate in our office, and she works in the area of assisting people with disabilities in getting and keeping a job.
Thank you, Kristen. So our client assistance program advocates for and protects the rights of individuals with disabilities who are applying for or receiving services from Ohio's Vocational Rehabilitation Agency, known as Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities, or you may know it as BVR or BSVI. We also assist people who are applying for or receiving services from Ohio's independent living centers throughout Ohio. And in terms of students, we advocate for those who are wanting services through OOD. And we can provide information and referral. So in terms of students who are wanting or needing services from Opportunities for Ohioans with Disabilities, they can be a part of the transition team. And you can request that from your school district, that they be a part of the transition team. And we advocate for students who have been turned down for VR services, who have common concerns with their vocational rehabilitation counselor, also who maybe not be satisfied with the services that they're receiving, or need more services. If you disagree with the decision to maybe close your case and have other problems with VR services, we help with appealing decisions that you do not agree with. And so we also advocate for students who are experiencing discrimination who may be employed during school, and we can help provide information regarding the rights under Title I of the Americans with Disabilities Act, give information on how to make a request for reasonable accommodations, and also provide information of where you might be able to file a complaint if you feel that you've been discriminated by an employer. And in terms of independent living centers, we advocate for young adults who are receiving those services. And some of those services, if you're not familiar with independent living centers, they provide information and referral to different services around the state of Ohio, provide independent living skills training. Also, they have peer counseling. They do individual and systems advocacy, and services that help you move from an institution to a home in the community. Also helping services that help you remain in your home if you want to stay in the community. And then services to help you transition from school to post-secondary life. Now, in terms of transition age youth, that means students with disabilities. We help in the transition planning, like I said, who are eligible for OOD services. And students with disabilities means just that, students who are in an educational program, who are between the age of 14 and 21 or until they leave high school, and are eligible for or have an IEP or a 504 plan. And we ensure that the students are receiving the necessary transition services and support that OOD or BVR, BSVI can provide. And they're called pre-employment transition services, and there are 5 of them. And they include job exploration counseling, work-based learning experiences to gain knowledge about workplace, counseling on post-secondary training opportunities, workplace readiness training to improve social and independent living skills, and instruction in self-advocacy to learn skills needed for greater independence. And we also assist youth with disabilities receive services from OOD, but also services from Job and Family Services through Ohio Means Jobs under the new Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act. And youth with disabilities just means that it's students between the age of 14 and 24 who may not be participating in an educational program, such as those who may have been dropped out or in the juvenile system. And we help students across for accessing post-secondary training. So for this means that individuals who are eligible for services through OOD can be provided services to help them transition from high school to college. And we ensure that their employment goal for OOD is in accordance with their IEP or 504 plan. For example, so if a student has an IEP goal that requires them to obtain college degree or certification for entry-level position, then OOD can provide services to obtain post-secondary training. For more information on this, see our new FAQ on post-secondary training on our website. We also help students who may be in college address discrimination in their college and ensure that they are being provided the accommodations that they need. We help young adults who may have already graduated as well. So this means getting them information or referral to OOD, and we assist them in receiving services to help them prepare for, obtain, and maintain employment to a competitive integrated employment setting. And their goal consists of their unique strengths, their resources, their priorities, their concerns, their abilities, their capabilities, and their career interests.
Thank you. Thank you, Melissa. I just want to take a few minutes and tell you about the other teams that we have at Disability Rights Ohio, because education and the employment CAP team is not the only one. We also have a community integration team, and they protect the rights of people with disabilities to live, work, and play in the community where people who don't have disabilities live. In that team, they address issues such as access to medically necessary services, Medicaid waivers, assistive technology, and other kinds of community access issues. We also have an abuse and neglect team at Disability Rights Ohio. They focus on protecting the rights of people with disabilities in the area of abuse and neglect. A lot of the work they do is monitoring of people who live in institutional settings to ensure that they are getting what they need and that they are free from all different forms of abuse and neglect. Within that abuse and neglect team, we have a special program that focuses on the victims of crime. It's called VOCA, V-O-C-A, and that program provides support to people with disabilities who have been victims of crime through the criminal justice process. So an example might be if a person is a victim of crime and they need to go to court to testify, we could be a support to them during the testimony and ensure that they're not being traumatized by the criminal justice process. We also have in our office a Medicaid Pro Bono program, and that assists people who are Medicaid eligible who need legal assistance if they're involved in a dispute with the Department of Medicaid over the services and supports that they receive. That program partners with private, generally corporate attorneys in the community who are mentored by us and who take those cases and represent people, Medicaid eligible people in the Medicaid fair hearing process. An example of a case in that situation might be a Medicaid eligible child who is threatened with a reduction in nursing services. And we would get a pro bono attorney to represent them to keep those services at their current level. We also have in our office a program called Wipa, Work Incentives Planning and Assistance, and that program helps people understand how much they could work and bring in income and still maintain the benefits that they receive. And we have a relatively new program called the Representative Payee Program that looks at ensuring that representative payees are taking good care of their payees' resources and not committing any kind of fraud. Finally, we have a policy for Disability Rights Ohio that focuses on legislative work, looking at both the state and federal level to ensure that any legislation is taking into account the needs of people with disabilities and not being detrimental to them. And that team also works on our outreach effort and collaboration efforts with other people within the disability community. Finally, I wanted to talk to you about our resource center at Disability Rights Ohio. I mentioned earlier some of the components in that resource center that are specific to special ed, but we have a resource center that talks about a lot of different substantive issues important to people with disabilities like housing, employment, abuse and neglect, and all sorts of different issues. So we have two components to our resource center. One is a legislative advocacy center, and that contains information about the work that our office is doing around rulemaking and lawmaking and how those proposed laws affect people with disabilities. And then we have a self-advocacy center that includes all of that information that I told you about earlier, self-advocacy resources specific to the topic that you're interested in. You can find those on our website. Finally, if you like the work that we do and you want to follow what we're doing, please follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter, and you can join our email list if you want to get updates, periodic updates about what we're doing.
No questions. So you can, and it doesn't look like we have any questions.
Okay. Well, thank you for joining us.